I think what it misses, both in writing or image generation, for example, when you're talking about AI image generation, it misses a core part of storytelling, and I think that is framing. So I think our jobs as storytellers and marketers, which I think go hand in hand, I think a big part of that is framing. And so context, framing, how you position something. So if you're writing, it's that maybe how your opinion or your unique understanding of a world blends into what you write.
I'm Nicole MacLean, and this is Content Matters, created in partnership with Share Your Genius. This show is your digital partner for filtering the trends and focusing on the content that matters most, creating connection that drives results. Let's cut through the marketing chaos together.
I'm Drew English. I am the CEO at Chartering Company, a video production service company, and then Forge Virtual Studios, an up-and-coming virtual production studio business.
We are going to dive into what all of that means on the show, but very excited to get some video insight when it comes to content, because we talk a lot about writing, but video is very important as we have a holistic strategy. So I think we'll have a good discussion. But maybe just to kick us off, how did you get to where you are now, especially like building your own agency?
Yeah, great question. So I came out of both the creative side and the marketing side, which is kind of merged to where I'm at today. So growing up, I had a love and a passion for creative, and specifically creating with a video camera and video editing systems. So self-taught in that regard. Did not go to film school, but learned everything online. And as I was going, trial and error. But went to college for communications and studied writing, studied communication theory. And out of college, I took those skill sets to a software company. I worked in ed tech on a 4-person marketing team. And while my official title was a video producer, I was handling everything from video production itself to work on HubSpot. And we had ported our website to HubSpot CMS recently, everything from print design to web design. But because of that, I really got to touch kind of both sides of that job, the video creativity side, as well as the marketing integration of those creative assets side. And that's where I think I really fell in love with the power that great creative content can have in a marketing workflow and a marketing funnel, and just being able to watch the long-term impact that video can have on a business's, growth trajectory.
Yeah, so a little bit of a philosophical question. We're just going to dive right into it. I took some photography classes for my minor in college, and I remember talking about photography, but also like video ethics. And I had one professor that would not allow us to do any editing. Like, you had to just capture what you could capture with your camera. And I had another professor that was like, if you don't edit, what do you do? Like, that is a skill set in itself. Like, you should be editing every image or every video to have like the best output. And especially in today's world with AI and AI image creation, like, I'm curious where you sit on that line of editing versus capturing what's real. How transparent are you? Like, when something is used to edit and not, like, have you come up against that in a real world example yet?
I absolutely love that question because I've been thinking about it a lot in relation to writing and video content and all elements of artisan craftsmanship, creativity. So obviously, in the writing world, you can totally go to ChatGPT, you can go to Gemini, and you can have it output a 2,500 word blog. And that would be my equivalent of, rolling a video camera and taking 60 minutes worth of footage and then publishing that as is. It's factual, it's accurate. There's a lot of depth and detail and, information in the content. However, I think what it misses, both in writing or image generation, for example, when you're talking about AI image generation, it misses a core part of storytelling. And I think that is framing. So I think our jobs as storytellers and marketers, which I think go hand in hand, I think a big part of that is framing. And so context, framing, how you position something. So if you're writing, it's that maybe how your opinion or your unique understanding of a world blends into what you write. In video, how you are cropping an image, how you are coloring raw footage. Sure, there's bias to it. Everyone's going to do it differently. I might crop or frame a video differently or apply a different look or color or feel to a video than somebody else might. But I think that's a part of how you tell the story. And if you're a storyteller or a marketer, your job is to tell a great story for the brand you're working with and to tell a really great, compelling story to your audience, one that's engaging and exciting and ultimately, hopefully, connects them to your brand's value and helps both succeed. So I think if you're talking about, raw AI output, there's benefit. It's raw information, it's data, and there's a good chance it's really factual. But I think it misses that framing, and I think that's a part that only humans can really achieve and be a part of right now.
Yeah, and I didn't mean for it to, but it kind of dove into the question of, I think everyone's trying to figure out where do you fit AI into a workflow? And I think video is an interesting one right now because it has always seemed to me, and you tell me as an actual creator of video, that if you don't know how to do it, people feel like it's a really intense barrier to entry, if you will, or like, I think people are not as open to just like jumping into video. I think that's come down since the, say, quality standard, but like, I'll say the rise of the let me take a selfie video in my car and give you my thoughts on this and post it is acceptable now versus like let me be in a studio and it's really polished and put together. So I feel like that's made video more approachable for people to embrace and put out. But where have you seen AI kind of fit in that video workflow where you're still really leaning into those human elements that are so special, but can also, save you some time or help someone who's maybe not great at it feel more confident?
I think there's room for AI in video, and there's specific places that AI generated video really does excel, especially if you're somebody that is comfortable with a keyboard, but maybe not with a camera. So I think back to, I attended HubSpot's inbound conference last year, and Sam, the head of content over at Wistia, gave a great talk about video marketing. And I love how he put every brand's video marketing strategy into one of three buckets. You are making basically high frequency, low impact video, mid frequency, mid impact video, or basically low frequency, high impact video. And there's a place for all of those. They all serve a unique, different purpose, and they should all be a part of a company's video marketing strategy as a part of kind of their broader marketing ecosystem. And so when I think of low impact, high frequency content, you might put webinars in that, or maybe those are mid impact, mid frequency, but webinars, right? You're not totally focused on setting up everyone's Zoom camera with optimal lighting and spending egregious amounts of time on the background. I also think of those LinkedIn videos you mentioned where you're in the car or on the go and there's a level of awesome user-generated authenticity to them. You want to be posting those frequently. You want to be posting them often. That's the goal of those. And they don't have to be kind of that like ultra high impact content piece. And I think AI generated video can play a role there. I don't want to dock something simply because it seems like it's a competitor to what we do here. I think there's complementary parts to it. Brands that are using it to quickly spin up things that can push onto social that are, kind of product focused or simple messages, but you add movement to them. I think that's really exciting. I think I feel like it's a win if anyone feels empowered to use video, whether they're using a camera or a computer, an editing platform or an AI, chatbot. But then I think about what we do and what we do here at Charter and Company, the video side. We are focusing on kind of that low frequency, high impact content. So the work we do with clients, it's typically like once a year, maybe twice a year. We help them produce like a smash hit video for a large campaign, or there's a big goal they've got to hit, and video can be a part of getting them there. And the budgets of the projects we work on, they're not conducive to doing them every day or every week or every month. And so part of what we focus on is like playing in that, bucket, and then enabling and teaching people how to make that mid-frequency, mid-impact content with maybe other firms or videographers, and doing a lot of that kind of high-frequency, low-impact content on their own. It's awesome when I see clients that use other people that they work with too, and when they're empowered to do it on their own and collaborate with us. So I think there's room for AI-generated video. It's just understanding like, where does it go? How impactful or what are the stakes? And then how frequently are you planning to use it?
Yeah, I love that. The three buckets. I feel like it's a really kind of easy way to think about where that can fit into your strategy and that it relates to the outcome. of what you're trying to accomplish, because the car driving video may not have that same high impact. And it's all based on what you're trying to accomplish and who you're talking to, and like what you're trying to get them to take away from the video as well.
Exactly. I think one place that AI video is not able to replicate the results yet, and I don't think it will be able to for some time because of how we feel about people and communications and relationships. I don't think it can nail like people. I don't think it can nail a character, a person on screen. I feel disheartened every time I see a digital twin of a CEO that's being used to communicate to stakeholders like customers across LinkedIn or other platforms. And people can sniff it out immediately. The technology's not that great. It builds a sense of distrust and brand disregard, at least in my opinion. I think that opinion is shared by a lot of others. You don't like hearing a message from somebody who's not real. And even as the technology continues to get better and better and maybe harder to distinguish, just imagine the negative credibility impact that a brand would have if all their ads were found out to be, AI generated characters or people. So I think that there's these spaces that are kind of no-go zones with that. And that's where that high impact video content where you're creating narratives. You mentioned cars, right? But like, I think of Volvo's recent commercial they just did on safety. It's a 3.5-minute video ad. It's contrarian. It breaks the rules of 15 seconds, quick hit ads, but it has real characters in it. And if you go and watch it, you're hooked within 10 seconds and you connect with their emotion and their experience. And by the end, you've sat and watched an ad for 3.5 minutes for a product, which is a car, and you have people basically weeping in the comments over it. And I don't think AI is going to get there anytime soon. So I think it's just about understanding how to use a tool healthfully, but without doing damage to your brand while using it.
Yeah, it's such a good point. So I don't want to take away from it, but you use the term digital twin, which is new to me. I feel like in context clues, I can pick up what it means, but can you define that for us?
Yeah, definitely. There's a growing number of software platforms and entities that can help you make essentially like a digital AI copy of yourself and use that to create video content. And so some of these platforms allow you to, for example, it spends time analyzing video clips of you and photos and outfits you wear and then even the way you talk through voice samples. And when it's done analyzing that, you have your digital twin created. And from that, you can, essentially type a transcript into this app and output a video file of yourself saying it. And just imagine, I know there's been plenty of chatter online about when CEOs will do mass layoffs over a Zoom call, right? In like a very, nondescript office setting. There's nothing personal about it. It's cold. It feels like thoughtless. And I think the same, like the reactions that people have to that are the same reactions people will have to being communicated to by AI figures or AI CEOs. It's cold. There's no life behind it. There's no humanity behind it. So a really cool technology. I think it's incredibly innovative and obviously could not have been done 5 years ago. So that's cool. But if you're out there using that for this like high impact content where it's customer facing, I would just totally be prepped to take a really big ding to your credibility as a brand.
Yeah, some say cool. I would say terrifying, but there obviously has been a huge leap in AI video and AI tools in general. But I remember, this was 4 years ago now. So again, maybe 3 years ago, but there was a string of YouTube videos made by bots, and it was like the classic Christmas movie or like your horror film, and they gave 100 scripts of the top 100 horror films, and then bots wrote, and then someone used, I'm not sure if they used AI, but like create a really lo-fi cartoon version of the story. And it was so terrible. It was so terrible. It was good, but it was not meaningfully good in any way. And so definitely still a long way to go before we could really lean into that.
Absolutely.
Now I'm like freaked out by these digital twin. And like as someone who does a lot of interviews, webinars, etc., it's great. But I'm like, I am putting myself out there now in likeness that like in theory could be training all these things. I don't know that we think about that or like if there are ramifications of that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the heart behind some of this, in some cases, may be good. If I'm a CEO or a sales leader or a community leader, and I want to be putting myself out there more often and talking to people, but I'm strapped for time, and it's easy enough to sit down and allow something to analyze me and ingest my likeness for a few hours, and then I can still communicate, I can still write things, but instead of having to put a nice shirt on and prepare and run through my lines and then record and then edit, I can do this faster and I can communicate more, and that's a good thing. The heart behind it isn't always bad, but at the same time, I think that output, it's not perceived that way. It's perceived as lazy at best, but like clinical cold and disingenuous at worst. That's beyond the ramifications of loading yourself into basically an AI model. But I really think the people who are on the edge of considering this should really be reconsidering. People appreciate, like audiences appreciate when you put time into something. It's noticeable. Like you and I are here chatting for.
I did have to go find a nice shirt, make sure you look good for the video. It does take time and effort. I joke about that all the time.
Totally, but it shows up and people appreciate it. And we can probably get to kind of like, where do I see opportunities for marketers and videos later on? But I think just the delta between the content that people spend little to no time creating versus the content people spend a lot of time creating, it's widening. There's a big delta there. And I think that the brands that are investing, in spending time and craftsmanship, they're going to stand out. They're standing out more and more every day, which is exciting to me.
It is. Before we get to the tactical opportunities, and now that I am deeply disturbed with this digital twin realization, but before we dive into the tactics, I'd love to talk about kind of more video strategy. And if you're a marketer, whether you are fortunate to be on a large team and you can kind of specifically focus on video, or you're maybe that jack of all trades trying to figure out how to do a little bit of everything. First of all, does every marketer in 2025, 2026 need to have video as part of their strategy to be successful? Maybe let's start there and we'll go deeper.
That's a big question. I think that there's probably a degree of necessity for video that varies by like industry and maybe audience size and audience preferences, but I think video is more and more essential every single year. Clearly, surveys show it's how people want to consume content. It's how people desire to be communicated with. You think about even really just personal communication, applications like Snapchat or FaceTime, even Instagram. These are visual first platforms, and more they're changing to video first platforms. LinkedIn's shift, Instagram shift to Reels, and they really want to push video and promoting and sharing video content. So I look at that and I have to just go where the data goes and say people want videos, so brands should be investing in figuring out how to meet people where they're at. So I do think it's essential, in 2025 and beyond to start putting together a video strategy of some sort.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It's just so natural. There are so many ways I feel like it has kind of made it easier for the average marketer to create video, whether that's using an AI tool and maybe that high frequency, low impact category. It's webinars, it's, video podcasting. I mean, I started podcasting 6 years ago now, and there was no video. That was not the norm. Part of why podcasting, I think, was successful is because it wasn't the webinar and people were like, okay, cool. I can just, be wherever and do audio. And now I feel like that switched, is that 95% of the podcasts I probably see, especially in B2B, is a video first so that you can repurpose, which I'm sure we'll get to repurposing. So if you need that video in some capacity, obviously your target market, your go-to-market strategy is probably going to impact how and where that shows up in your strategy. But where would you recommend people lean in? Like, do you create video first and then repurpose that video into social content, blog posts, etc.? Do you start somewhere else and figure out how it can show up on video? Maybe both and?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've been marketing, for a long time, or you have a marketing team that's existed, you've probably, as you've nodded to, you've been involved in other channels. You've been writing blog content, you've been publishing images and captions on social media, you've been running email marketing campaigns, and, hopefully if you're in tune with, you're a good marketer, you're watching those stats, you're seeing what's being opened, you're seeing what's being clicked. So I think you just start where the data is. I could give a overarching recommendation that might be generally helpful, but if you're a marketer that's got data, if you got likes, impressions, clicks, opens, start on what are the messages that are working for your audience, what is interesting to them, what's resonating. And then I think from there, it will become clear that, your next step might be a product video. A product or a specific product is what's resonating and what's interesting right now. Or it might be a specific message or a value that your brand holds. And then the more you're communicating that specific value proposition, people are engaging. And so you can start to think, okay, what are the ways I can use video to share that value proposition? And you might think, okay, a motion graphic, an animated video, that would be a really easier lift. Those are typically, if you work with a company like us, it's a lower budget project. You can still do it extremely well. You can convey your brand really well through that and your brand identity. And you can use words, which are awesome. Or you might think, man, I really feel locked in on and convicted around this value is what's resonating with my audience. I want to go do something that's top funnel, very brand awareness level. Let's craft a narrative. Let's work on a concept that really can build broad awareness. And it's not, bottom funnel, kind of like next step, call to action focused, but it's something that's going to build that regard and build awareness of you and your values. And you might consider going that route with the insights you gain from email or social. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Start where the data is at. You've probably, as a marketing team, got a plethora of first party data. And I think it's a great place to start making decisions about where to focus your video efforts.
I love that. Start where the data is at. It's a good reminder for lots of things, probably not just video, but
right.
For video as well.
As a sales and marketing leader, I'm always interested to hear about a team's tech stack. At Composely, we use Apollo with HubSpot to fuel our outbound outreach. My team loves it. It consistently provides accurate contact information and is incredibly user-friendly. If you're thinking about changing your data provider or just want to hear more about our experience, connect with me on LinkedIn or check out the link in the show notes of this episode. Improve your inbound, increase conversion, and keep your marketing database squeaky clean with Apollo.
Very specific question. You mentioned product demo, which I think comes up a lot. And this idea of, I feel like in the writing side, there's this to gate to not gate. And I think most people nowadays have landed in not gating a lot of content and just putting it out there. With product, videos, walkthroughs, things that obviously would be probably really interesting to bring that buyer in and just to kind of showcase value. Do you have any recommendations on just put it out there, or you don't want competitors to see it, or you want to be able to withhold just enough that gets them to convert, use the power of video to show the masses versus knowing kind of when to hold back and when to make it public? Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. If you're totally convicted that your product or your service has, unique, distinct value compared to your competitors, I wouldn't be too scared about sharing, that value or more specifics about that product through video. Creating a professional video is a high lift. If you're working with a video production provider, service provider, hopefully they're taking a lot of the headache out of that. But it's still a large effort project and there's probably budget behind it. So I think about the idea of gating something like that behind an email field, and it just makes me so sad. Everyone should see that. Everyone should see the hard work that your team and your video provider put together. But what I think is really unique, and you talked about repurposing, is if you craft kind of a multi-layer strategy in which the main asset might live somewhere like a YouTube and might even be let's say a YouTube ad, and you're going to run a campaign through Google and you're going to play that 60-second overarching piece through a YouTube ad. You keep it general. You don't focus on bottom of funnel per se. You're not trying to drive a demo or a calendar appointment, but you sit and you kind of analyze, you let Google's engine analyze who's engaging with this, right? Who's watching the majority of the video? Who's clicking to rewatch it? Who's even clicking through to your link? And from there, it's really simple to cut that video into 30 or 15-second pieces with call to actions that are more direct, that are pushing that kind of book a meeting, call today, schedule a demo, and basically only sending those messages and maybe even deeper looks, right, at a product or a service to people who are engaged and appear to be potential buyers. So I think there's ways to kind of lead with the demand gen philosophy of give it to everyone and get them excited and they will come to you. But then to use retargeting and repurposing with the video cut downs to really take more of a lead generation strategy to it, if that idea makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, lead gen strategy is always a big focus when it comes to video. I would imagine that ROI is a big conversation around video. How would you coach someone about the metrics or the KPIs of success that they should be paying attention to get that internal buy-in on why video is important?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to understand what the objective of the video you created is. There's a problem, and we run into it all the time with prospects we're talking to or customers where I want my video to hit all my objectives. I want it to build massive awareness, and I want it to go viral, and I want my CFO to see that it brought 6x ROAS in, and we're the best marketing investment they made all year. You can't focus on all those objectives, right? And the easiest way to frame it is kind of that top, middle, bottom funnel segment and those objectives that come with each unique stage. And so I think the metrics you are watching for are different depending on what level of content you're creating and kind of what your objective is at that level. So for a top funnel video, we're working on a project right now for a client that's part of a large rebrand campaign. And so they've launched a new website and they are ready to roll that out to, the world. And they're kind of stepping away from the old identity into a new identity. And they're looking to promote that with like a really thoughtfully put together narrative, a 60-second ad, kind of commercial piece with a couple of those cut downs, like I mentioned. And when I think about that video and how do we measure success, that's a long-term bet. That video, I don't think success should be measured by dollars spent and the checkout cart on the website, but it's really like how many views have we seen of that video? How many impressions or comments? That's directly on like a video upload page like a YouTube. But then even from a search perspective, you can go in and look for a lift in branded search. I think that's a great indicator that a video is generating better awareness. So if you're tracking search metrics in like a Google Search Console or trends, and you see a lift in people since the start that video is posted to date, you see a lift in people searching for your company name, that's a really great sign, right? And if people are searching on an engine like Google, and it's a higher intent kind of like action, and I would say that's pretty easy to say, hey, that probably will link to website browsing and potentially a purchase down the road. So like a top funnel brand ad commercial, you really got to judge it by things like that. How many people have watched it? How many people have commented and engaged? Have you seen like a lift in branded search? But if you're making products videos, 15-second motion graphic product loops that you're putting onto Meta, and you've got a CTA button that's driving a checkout now, and I have been absolutely a partaker in the quick Instagram purchase that shows up in my door 2 days later. I'm not sure how it got there, but those videos, you're looking for dollars, right? You're looking for conversions, you're looking for checkouts, and that video does not do the same thing as that 60-second like huge production value brand awareness ad. So I really think you have to choose your objective and then look at what are the ROI kind of metrics I should be tracking at that level of the funnel.
That's really helpful. And it goes back to context is everything. You can't just have one measure of success for your video strategy. It needs to be like based on where in the funnel, the journey, etc. So I think that's a good call out. One piece that I think actually kind of wraps a lot of what we've talked about together is we've talked a lot under the assumption you have someone internally that's willing to put themselves out, whether as an actual real human person, I guess means you can't see that I'm real and not a digital twin, or it's a digital twin. But if you don't have someone that's either like willing or has the, I don't want to say skill set, but wants to be that external face, either do you have any tips in encouraging people to kind of put themselves out there, or hey, if an internal thought leader isn't in the cards for you just based on where you are now, how you can still take advantage of video in a really authentic way?
Yeah. I think when it comes to gathering kind of that support system to get an internal employee on for a video, like a talking head video where somebody's representing your company, my advice is always to shoot broad with kind of a message throughout the whole company saying there's a video project going on. We're looking for somebody to talk about XYZ. Who wants to join the casting call? I will tell you the best video interviews we've done for more corporate style videos have come from employees that I don't think the marketing team ever would have imagined would have been up for the job. And they have given thoughtful responses, and their insights on the company or the topic are so unique, and sometimes they're so well spoken. I don't know if some of these people are like aspiring actors who just haven't gotten a chance yet, or if they're just really passionate about where they work or what they do or the subject matter. But if you can't find anyone in your 50 to 50 plus person company, it's because you haven't asked everybody. That's the reason. There's somebody at every company, and it might not be a C-suite level executive, but there's somebody at every company who would jump at the chance to represent the brand or represent the idea on video. And so I think you just have to open up that filter and, see who might want to be involved and empower anyone to get into that seat.
I think that's such a good reminder. Because yes, as I think back to moments, and especially client testimonials are, I think, a great way to do this too, but it's always someone on your account management or client success team. There's always someone that's so good in front of the camera, and they're the ones closest to the client. So they also bring a level of thought leadership that you don't expect. But even outside, I've been blown away by even some like engineers that you typically think that, they want to go in their hole and code. But they kind of just come alive and bring a really authentic experience to the camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or also just, hire more theater kids.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It's a bonus, right? In a video first world, a theater is totally a bonus.
It is. If anyone listened to the episode with Jillian, we talked about that as both former theater kids, that it definitely helps just having that background. And you're really good at, having to wear multiple hats, making costumes, finding weird props. Like, it all translates.
Absolutely.
This has been so great. I mean, even for Composely, I feel like some really great takeaways for us to consider in a video strategy. But maybe any tips or just kind of advice that you would leave for folks?
Yeah, I think there is a big shift happening in marketing, a swing back towards brand over performance. I think of some of the brand era of legendary commercials and ads and the Nike level, like philosophical, you watch an ad from them and you just feel like, man, I'm so inspired to go do anything, including buying Nike shoes. I think there's a swing back to that. And so we've been, I think, ever since like the late 2010s, and especially with the pandemic, in this frenzy for performance as marketers. And everything's got to drive an action and everything's got to prove ROI. But I think there's this big swing back to brand. And so if you're a marketer and you're feeling the pressure to basically create stuff that converts, create stuff that performs immediately, just keep an eye, keep a pulse on where things are going, because I really think that the people who are investing in great story and big ideas and contrarian ways to go about telling that story and promoting their brand, I think they're going to be big winners. I think that the amount of noise, the amount of performance noise that's all over the internet right now, from, just poorly done UGC videos to, like we talked about, just AI, for lack of a better word, AI slop videos. They are absolutely ruining people's attention span, and people have just such a low bar and low expectations. So if you've got a great idea as a marketer, I think swing big, whether it's a written piece or it's an image set, an ad image set, or it's a video. Swing big. I think with that low bar and low threshold where people are at, your ideas have 10x the chance of succeeding than they did back in the big brand days. So that would be my advice, is just like greenlight your wildest ideas, get excited about things that promote brand at a big level, take chances. And I think where we're going with marketing, I think that's going to be rewarded.
That's so inspirational. Like, that is such a great, heartwarming as a marketer, just to kind of hear that I agree. I do think that brand is going to play a bigger role in the next few years. And that I think it's a good reminder to swing big. I think we're a little risk averse right now. I just feel Like, I think marketers are just so desperate to be able to put up ROI, and that almost makes us kind of go into our shells. I think it's a good reminder that it's okay to take risks.
Absolutely. When people are risk averse, that is the best time to take risks.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Content Matters, created in partnership with Share Your Genius. If you like the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Otherwise, you can find all the resources you need to stay connected with us in the show notes. Till next time.